Hey, babes.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Summon Greater Podcast.
Summon Greater Podcast. It's a podcast about homebrew and homies.
And for the first time in a long time, we have a homie this week.
It's the homiest, one might say. It's my wife.
Hi, I'm the wife.
She has a name also.
Back again.
Her name is Sophia.
Hello.
Guess who's back?
I'm Sam.
I'm Skyler.
Hi, Skyler.
Hi.
You're gonna be a year older by the time this comes out.
I don't like that. That's one closer to death.
Skyler hates his birthday so much.
I love his birthday for him. I love his birthday with the strength of two people in love.
Anyway, the reason that we're here with Sophia is because we want to talk about the campaign that she's been running. It's the one that over the last year-ish. How old is that fucking campaign?
It will be a year in actually a month.
I guess so.
A month and a couple weeks.
Did we start that early in the summer? I thought for some
could
reason
actually just tell you. Hold on a second.
Well, yeah, that would matter because I started planning it when I was on my vacation in June.
Right. July 17th.
July 17th.
Okay, the date
so
of
we
our
did start
first
it.
session in this campaign.
We're gonna have to make a cake for that. I'm feeling it.
You're right.
feeling it.
You're right. It's the one that over the last year though we have played the most by far, and the one that we tell the most stories from on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I've realized over the last week, just as I edit and shit, that we reference this campaign and all the other ones that we're in, to be honest, so often with no context to really what's going on. We add a little bit here and there, but we wanted to take some time in this episode to cover what the campaign is, what it does, what it means.
What it do?
What it do?
Just to give like a synopsis of the plot and the world and the characters that Skyler and I play. At least the ones that we play. We'll touch a little bit on the other two, but sooner or later we will also have those players on to speak for themselves.
We figured it'd be good. We've been talking about our characters and we've mentioned them several times, and y'all don't know. Y'all don't know them.
You don't know like we do, and you
just
don't know what they've been through.
It's
But I
true.
do.
You don't know their
But
story.
she does.
And I know what they will go through, which is somehow so much worse and better. So
Wow. Yeah. So why don't you start us off by telling us about the setting of this campaign?
oh boy. So this campaign actually is a continuation of the first campaign I ever created back in like 2019.
Yeah.
It's been
long time.
It's been a long time. It was the first one I ever created. I created it. It was a very shoddy homebrew work of things that I like compiled and ideas I had, and you have to start from the beginning to understand where it is now. I came home after you two dragged me into a hallway,
Literally.
and
As we
said,
discussed.
"Let's play
Wrists and
D&D."
ankles.
Yeah, wrists and ankles, and set me down and said, "Hey, let's play D&D." And I just loved it so much, and I immediately thought, "Well, I need to take this home to my friends." And by friends, I mean Frenda. And I have my best friend who lived next door. She grew up with me. We did everything together, the role playing and all the other little, like Discord stuff and everything. And so I went home and I was like, I found this crazy new thing and I really want you to get into it. At first she was like, I don't really know. And then we found dice because we went to Barnes and Noble back when they had like a decent selection of dice, and we sat down and we talked about this for like a day, and we just came up with everything on the spot. And then we stayed the night because she would always stay the night at our house. And then the very next day we woke up and we sat in the kitchen in the dining room and we played for hours.
Yeah.
And I had no clue what I was doing, but we were just having fun. So
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm so glad that you got to like catch up on the high school experience that all the rest of us had of just like brainstorming world building like
oh yeah.
late nights after school.
Well, see, the thing was is that I was doing it on my own before D&D.
I see.
And Victoria was there with her laptop and my thing, and we had groups that we would rotate, which at the time, thinking back on it now, I'm like, that was literally me DMing.
Mhm.
We would just pass the baton every couple months to the next person. The story just kept building and building and building. So we took the elements of that and put it into this, and that's what started it. But in terms of like the fact that now, instead of just like my computer and a chat box that was like this big on like a website that I just don't even want to think about anymore, instead I had like Pinterest and dice and like maps and like mechanics, to where it wasn't just me sitting there and going like, so and so does this and da 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 and has a conversation and everyone is just like insane because, you know, we're all horny teenagers and stuff. It's instead it's like it's this legitimate world building and stuff. We made a map and drew our characters, and I helped her roll her sheet up, and I had, again, no clue what I was doing.
Yeah.
I never even texted you guys. I was just like, I'm so determined to figure this out on my own.
I can do it myself.
I can do this myself. We fixed her sheet 3 times afterwards. And there were so many rolls that she fudged.
One of those times I helped fix the sheet.
Yeah, because I had no clue. But anyway, that's not even about the study. So the original plot line of season 1, which leads to season 3, is that in the beginning of time, there was this one massive continent, and there was a people group that were essentially, they were all the equivalent of gods. Like, they were just immortal beings. Mm-hmm. And they were in 2 separate kingdoms, which were ruled by the sun and the moon, because anything involved with the sun and the moon and the star motifs and stuff has always been a huge deal to me. And it also made the most sense because, again, I was drawing on stuff that I was doing originally. So there was Helios and there was Selene. And Helios and Selene fell in love and the whole, you know, story with that. But I wanted to make things more interesting. So I created these gods, essentially, that loved each other so much and had a kid and were uniting their kingdom and building all of this stuff. And they were so blinded by their love for each other that they kind of cast their daughter to the wayside. Mm-hmm. Like they were neglectful people. They didn't know what they were doing, because I wanted it to not just be this like epic love story of conquering all. I wanted it to be kind of raw and questioning who was in the right. So their daughter, who was named Polaris, or the North Star, grew up really resenting her family. And she one day said, screw you guys, I'm going to go and I'm going to do my own thing. And her magic from her her own abandonment and her grief and her rage was so strong that she created a new race, which was the stars. Mm-hmm. And that was not like the stars you see in the sky that came later. They were like incarnate, immortal people who served her like so faithfully, and everything. They were yes men, essentially, for her. And they were beautiful, but they were also considered technically formless. Mm-hmm. So they didn't have gender. They didn't have faces. They just had like this piece of themselves that came from her. And there were thousands of them that she was creating because her rage was just so endless. And she immediately turned around and she said, I'm going to go and I'm going to kill my family now. And I'm going to rule the world, and I'm going to be better at everything because, you know, my parents failed me and they abandoned me and they never cared about me. They only loved themselves, and I'm going to make things right. And that's all the information you got, was that she was not a good person. She was filled with rage. Yep. Her parents weren't great. And in the end, she was so ruthless, and these things that she created were so incredibly powerful that Helios and Selene had no choice but to kill their daughter. And they tried, and they failed. And that was the big part, is that she literally was so convinced of the fact that her parents loved each other so much that they didn't care about her, that she thought the only way for them to finally notice me is if I separate them from each other on the battlefield, because then they're not strong enough on their own. Mm-hmm. And her parents realized when that happened, oh my God, that's exactly what's going on. And what ended up being kind of the end result is that Polaris took the goddess of the moon and dragged her up into the mountains and basically encased her in a tomb like thousands of feet deep, and like completely nixed her power. And then Helios, you know, this father, this husband who was left behind in this just like destruction and gory battlefield, was so angry at himself and the fact that he lost his wife, that not only did he cause the first eclipse to happen in an attempt to find Selene, his wife, again, which ended up obliterating the whole continent, but he actually used the last of his own mortal power, because there's some, stuff which I can't get into because that's the story you guys will see later, to build his own tomb and just die. And so all of the stars that got left behind were flung up into the heavens and became these, celestial bodies. And then we fast forward thousands of years later to Polaris resurrecting after basically siphoning off of Selene's power for thousands of years. And that's how the story begins. It's my friend Victoria's character, who just really wanted to prove the tomb existed, who at the time is a tabaxi, is now Leonin, because back then we didn't have Leonins. And then another tabaxi, because we thought that just tabaxi were cool. Another tabaxi, which was the first character I ever created, stuck in this world after driving from a different continent and trying to kill a bunch of soldiers with cursed jewelry that they were going to take home to like their kids and their wives and all this other stuff. And she's like, oh my God, look at these cool treasures. And Victoria's character goes, I'm going to tell everyone what you did and get you executed unless you follow me out to this tomb that I don't think really exists.
Bitch.
Yeah. And then they find the tomb. They find Helios. Helios says, I'll let you live. It was never like my hero, my predestined. It was, I'll let you live if you go find my wife.
Yeah.
And that's how the story begins. So that's season 1, was just all of that. And now what it has evolved into, after that long monologue I already just gave you, is the stars being so much more fleshed out, and then becoming eventually, because of the eclipse that happened, the like chaos and casting the stars to the heavens, is half of the stars went to the heavens and created the celestial plane, and half of the other stars were obliterated into the ground and basically created the infernal plane. So now you have stars, which are ancient, immortal, cannot be killed by any circumstances beings. You have angels who their entire purpose is to be holy and serve mankind. And then you have demons who are so jaded from what happened. They're bitter, they're angry, and all that they do is they feed into the desires of mankind. So it became this almost like, what is it, like Dante's Inferno type-esque. I drew a lot off of biblical studies and my own concepts of angels and demons. I went from like the fall of Lucifer and like that whole epic that happened. I went off of Dante's Inferno. I researched a lot of other religions and their beliefs on angels and demons, and I said, how can I apply that to my own thing? But then it also becomes so fascinating because you now have angels and demons who not only have existed for centuries, but remember what it was like to be this limitless form that this, jaded child birthed and turned them into, essentially, So, and now we're here. So, season 1, like I said, was Helios and Selene. And the story of these two stupid tabaxi going, I don't want to be a hero. And the gods saying, well, you found us, so you don't have a choice. And then the second season was, okay, well, now Polaris is, shattered into pieces and is still trying to rebuild. And now we have these people who have also found her like you found us, and we need you guys to take care of them. Completely different set. That's when Skyler was introduced to it. And you've got to play in the very final session. Which was the big war. Yeah. And then now we have season 3 where the sky gets ripped open and the ground gets ripped open in this massive rift because the angels and demons are essentially ascending and descending into the world. And you've got 2 years to live before this one angel and one demon, who have been so bitter and jaded from the entire experience and were one of the last formed out of Polaris's hand, are going, time to pay for your sins because you're the reason we're in this.
We're just going to end it all.
Yeah, we're just going to end it all, people. Yeah.
That concept of the rifts, particularly the one in the ground, has just been a really interesting and dynamic mechanic in the world for us to interact with. Especially like early on. We haven't had to do much with it lately just because we haven't been traveling a lot in the last we've found ways, but like early on, it was hard to maneuver the continent with 300-foot wide tears in it.
Yeah, and not like, oh, it's a cliff and there's a bottom. Like, no. Like, this is the thing that killed my first character, if you remember me talking about Auden.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, look, there he goes. He's falling. He's still falling. No, it was like, shwoop, he's been eaten by the void.
Like it sucked
Gone.
him in. It's like magnets.
Yeah.
He had a pocket full of lead. That's what did it.
It's so true. It wasn't actually the rift that killed him. It was lead poisoning.
You guys discovered my hidden plot.
But our characters that we've made for this, and the one that you wanted to move on from Auden, and like you had a fully fleshed out character idea that you moved on to, that you've had for most of the campaign. At this point, the characters that we've been playing, we have kind of fallen in love with.
Oh yeah. I mean, there are still times when I find myself thinking like, man, I wonder what Auden would be doing right now if he had stayed with everybody. Yeah. But and that's not necessarily me saying like I don't like my current character. That's just I was not expecting the entire group to fall in love with the little shithead halfling.
Yeah.
That wanted everything to do with the gods and organized religion and organized authority to just burn in hell.
Yeah. I more than anything wanted to know what was going on with his magic, his wild shapes specifically, because he was I'm certain that at some point in the future we're going to get back around to this, but he had a very specific flavor to his wild shaping.
Yeah.
Where they all looked like bismuth creatures.
Mm-hmm. They were all like crystallized gemstone creatures as opposed to, just turning into an actual animal. Is that something that you can speak to right now?
I can, because it's not going to come up as much as you think it will. So he actually, what I had planned for you, because you had given me these bare bones, and here's the thing I will say from a DM's perspective as well, because now we can talk about, instead of me sitting there listening to your podcast and going, but I know what this was about, I can actually say, I knew when you gave me Auden's sheet, I was like, this is not going to last long. And also when he had introduced this to me, I had walked in with the idea of a character is going to die. And back when you guys loved these characters, because I was never going to force it on you guys, but there was a part of me that's like, I could play a lottery with this because I wanted this to be such a riveting, heart-wrenching experience. So I was struggling because I was like, all of you guys love your characters so much because you had given it and Bailey and Aaron had given it to me. And then Skyler was like, yeah, here's my character. And I immediately went, do you want to kill him? Because I'd love to kill him. I really would. And he said, yeah.
Well, because that was the thing is like when we were talking about characters, I had originally brought up Ito.
Yeah.
I brought up Ito first before I even came up with it, and I was like, I think this would be really, really cool. And you were like, well, that's going to take a while for him to come in because
he's from another continent.
Yeah. When all of these events go down, it wouldn't make sense for him to be there. So are you sure? Do you really want to do this or do you want to do something else? And I was like, well, I mean, I could play an interim character. I could play something just for the time leading up to Ito's introduction. Yeah. That's the word. But yeah, so then just looking at it, and then I was like, oh, fun. I haven't played a druid in a while. I'll do that. Halfling? They're fun. I'll play a halfling. Yeah, cool. And then I just slap some backstory on, and I was like, I don't know, this works. And then we sat down and looked at it, and you were looking at it, and you were like, okay, this could be really cool. And then I was like, oh no, this is really cool.
So, he was going to get wild magic, and his source of power, which you can kind of read in his journals, is that he went through a very specific place that is in the continent of Elapuris, which is the continent that they're currently on right now. There's 2. And essentially him going through that place and just the right circumstances and the right time and a little bit of Fae magic, because the Fae aren't really ever touched on or will be touched on in this season. He got his magic, his wild shape from Tourmaline Canyon, which is why a lot of the monsters in that place look very similar to what he does. And so Tourmaline Canyon, for this setting, is essentially a big, massive, I mean, it is just a legitimate canyon, because the continent of Elapuris was originally dominated by Polaris, who still is coming up and is kind of like a bigger deal now and more fleshed out in the season. Elapuris' nickname is the Steps of Polaris, because supposedly the way it originally went is that they were literal steps in the continent that led up to whatever her massive stronghold, her temple, her, castle, whatever you want to call it, was. And that now is the mountains that you guys will interact with pretty soon, actually. So that canyon was a huge monument of destruction in some of the original battlefields, which you'll get to later, but you're starting to discover that in some of the journals that you're finding from the original stars, which I'd also love for us to touch on. So the reason why it's so cool and just a big deal is because it's made entirely almost of gemstone. It's not like your normal canyon where it's like clay and rock and looks red and weird like the Grand Canyon, even though I did kind of base it off of that. I was like, what if it was all just made out of labradorite and it was really pretty, and it was also impossible to be in because it's just ravaged by like the equivalent of terrestrials. Yeah. And then I promptly put you guys like less than a block 10 miles from it, and I said, don't go in there, and you all went, but I wanna.
But we could.
Shiny rocks.
Yeah.
It was one of the first landmarks we interacted with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you had to travel on the side of it.
Into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
The first person we killed.
Yep. Good times.
Yeah.
They stole some beer, and so we went after them with extreme prejudice.
To be fair, it's a lot of beer.
It was a lot of beer.
It wasn't just a lot of beer; it was expensive beer.
Yeah. They took the good beer.
They stole from a local business.
Damn.
The cardinal sin, honestly.
Support your local businesses, honestly. I mean,
what was... I knew what it was called word for word at some point. It's some kind of honey ale.
Fern Combs Honey Crisp Honey Mead.
Honey Crisp Honey Mead, actually.
From the Blue Brew.
From the Blue Brew Inn.
Yep. And they tried to make off with the goods, and we tracked them down in our little horse and buggy, and they had broken down by the side of the road on the edge of the canyon, and we all went, hey, we're here to help. And they went, oh, good. And we were both prepping crossbows as we approached each other. And then we fucking killed him and threw one guy into the canyon. Presumably to be eaten by whatever the fuck lives down there.
That was my first instance of like acting on instinct in like potential combat, which I've been getting better about, like just discerning when it's going to happen. Because like the moment I thought one of them was shady, I cast darkness.
Yeah,
like on all three of them.
I forgot. That was some good shit.
They're all rogues.
Which means I did it correctly.
Yeah, literally went, whoop.
Wasn't that also the first time that Alden wild shaped?
Yeah, it was.
Because you
So you
turned
guys
into a
got to see the
bear.
bear.
The bear? Yeah, it was the bear. The elk was later.
Yeah, the elk was on the beach.
Yeah.
Everything about this campaign's been crazy.
Yeah. Can I talk about Vori a little bit?
Please do. God, yeah.
So, Vori, guy, dude.
Look at him.
He's so pretty, first of all.
He's a pretty boy.
But also, he really likes lighthouses.
He really likes lighthouses.
That is his thing. He is a short little Shadar Kai with white hair who lives in a lighthouse with his mentor, Van Damme, or did before he left for adventure. He came to live there because basically, like, as a child, he was obsessed with this lighthouse in his town, Blushing Sands. And he would sneak into that shit all the time. And then one day eventually got caught by the lighthouse master, Vanda. And rather than chastise him, which perhaps he should have done, he was like, hey, let me show you around the place.
You're going to sneak in all the time, then at least you're going to fucking do some chores while you're here.
Yeah, you're at least going to learn how this shit works. And he wanted Vori to learn because dude's getting old. He's not going to, die of old age anytime soon, but like he's getting up there in years and needs someone to take over eventually.
He needs a protege.
Yeah, so might as well be someone who loves the trade and loves the practice. One very fateful night, Vori is upstairs reading at the top of the lighthouse, and there's a collision. There's an explosion.
Oh shit!
On the beach.
On the beach.
And he goes down to check it out, and there's a body on the ground. I'm doing all this over play by post, by the way, with Sophia. There's just like this little white, slightly glowing body. He's like, is this person good? Do I help them out? And he decides to help them out. And then upon touching this body, I roll the craziest one of my life on a wisdom saving throw, I think.
Which I did not plan to happen. But it did.
Literally, like one of the most consequential rolls that I've ever made. Like for anything.
I mean,
ever.
that shit shaped
to
your
the
character.
point where I pulled out a mechanic that I had made from 2019 that I had dug away like in a document on my laptop because I went, oh, this is actually happening. Like I thought this was going to be like maybe down the line. Like this was not supposed to happen at all.
Okay, what was the thought that led you to like think that in particular was what you should use there? Like,
oh, that was a thing. So I will keep this.
Like, had you considered
brief.
that a possibility before?
Oh,
that
yeah,
moment?
absolutely.
Okay.
So part of the whole thing with season 1 was the fact that Victoria's character was being stalked by these 2 stars, which will come up in the campaign again, guys.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
Oh boy.
Victoria, if you're watching this, I hope you're laughing right now because you know what they are about to experience.
Fuck the stars.
Fuck the stars, man. I had an original thing where if you touched them, this is something that could potentially happen. They were running from these things. They're not good stars. They're on your sheet, actually. That little roll-up scroll I gave you where I said, here's all the stars on the thing and the little descriptions. Yeah, there's 2 of them in there.
As a result of rolling a 20 when I was talking to my star, Crucius, and basically then getting the opportunity to ask her and the universe, as it were, any question I wanted.
Yeah. So that was an original mechanic where it was potential where you could be essentially, it is a curse technically of the stars essentially giving you some of their being because of how powerful they are. I mean, it's a star, like it's a literal star that is shoved down onto Earth and I literally have it where it's not like they were cast down or fell down to Earth. They are flung down to Earth. They are hurled down to Earth, and you
like
touching
expelled
them
from the sky.
Like they are literally taken by their god's hand and they are literally just flung onto the Earth. That is how it is written. Yeah, it's not gentle. It's not like by choice. So when my original plan for that beach scene was you will meet a star and it'll be really cool. And then like later on down the line, you can explore like the complications of that and maybe you'll see her again. Yeah. And then you rolled a 1 and I went, uh-oh, what? And I almost debated not doing it. Like I almost debated where like you just had that experience and maybe you blacked out or something like that. But then I was
I think you like asked me like, okay, how far do you want me to take this?
Yeah,
and
I did.
Said,
I did because
nuts.
I didn't want to because it defined your character that you hadn't even gotten to play yet. So I was like, if you don't want me to do this, I won't. And then you're like, fuck me up. And I said, Okay. Like,
that's the kind of question you have to say yes
oh,
to.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't think I could ever turn down something like that. Like knowing what it meant, especially now with this campaign, knowing what it means now.
Yeah.
I'm never going to say no in the future. Like anytime they're like, but how far, like how okay is okay? I'm going to be like, I want that nat 1. Give it to me now. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that was like really defining for me as a player also, because like I realized in that moment, sometimes it's really good to lean into, a perceived mistake, even though like in no world was that like, it was just
circumstance. It was, again, this is a lottery. The whole game is a lottery,
I mean, a lot of people have said it before, but the dice tell a story, and it's not necessarily a story of successes and failures. Sometimes it's a story of just the way things happen. Yeah. And you're rolling nat 1, you don't sit there and go, fuck, a nat 1. You gotta look at it at some point and be like, all right, what am I going to experience? What is going to happen to me as a result of this that I would not have otherwise gotten to experience?
This became so character defining that like it's seeped into the mechanics after a while. Vori started out just like as a shadow sorcerer is the subclass I went with. And then after a while, Sophia approached me with this slightly altered version of the subclass and said, I think some things have probably changed over time and started to manifest in this form. And so she and Skyler, I can't remember if you helped with that.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Wrote up this whole new sorcerer subclass in D&D Beyond, and then she was like, do you want this? And I'm like, yeah, of course. I'm gonna say yes to like everything from now on. Because it just makes sense. And the biggest and like most interesting change for me has been the I forget what the original version of the ability is called now. Hound of Ill Omen. For Shadow Sorcerer, you can summon a shadowy direwolf. Basically, it's changed now to be like, for flavor, a more starry looking direwolf and a giant eagle and a giant octopus. I have a choice between the 3 of those, and they are so much fun. And I didn't realize early on that they take their original health point pool and also the temp HP that you throw on top of them. I thought it was just the temp HP. So I was throwing them out for many, many battles, and they would get KO'd in one hit, and I'd be like, I don't know what these are for. Why am I spending 3 sorcery points on this every time I use it? But no, it turns out the octopus is actually kind of beefy and crazy.
It's not supposed to just have 7 hit points. It's supposed to have like 67.
Yeah. And that is like more than anything the spirit of why we like to create subclasses in particular for homebrew.
Yeah.
That kind of shit's so fun. And I think it's so much cooler when there is a lore specific reason within your campaign to take like some crazy alternate homebrew route like that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the reason why we do magic items too.
Yeah.
Because like the whole spirit of magic items in D&D is that so many of them are made based on a specific pantheon or a specific setting or whatever. So if we're making our own pantheon and our own setting for D&D, that pantheon's going to need attributed magic items. Yeah. That setting is going to need unique items. And that's the whole spirit of D&D. You don't have to use any items from original D&D if you don't want to. Make up all of your own shit, or take whatever makes sense and make up the rest.
Love shit like that. He also likes tall women.
Tall,
this is not important.
Scaly women.
It's just on the mind because it happened like in the last couple sessions again.
Specifically with very large teeth.
Yeah.
You know, the ones that you're willing to pay 3 platinum for just to spend 3 hours
Who
with.
wouldn't?
I mean, at least they create compelling characters because, you know, that's always my biggest worry. I'm like, damn, are these NPCs like not fleshed out enough? And then you're like, I'm going to give you all my money just to breathe in my direction. I'm like, I'm doing a good job. Like,
This is good. This is good.
Yeah.
Vori on 2 separate occasions has bedded a dragonborn woman in a position of power, just for the bit.
just for the bit.
And I love that about him.
Oh my God.
It's goals.
And now you're going to probably start collecting them all because now you know about the intersect of the dragon's horde, which is, you know, what did I say? 7?
7 of them?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's
we're
7.
gonna have to see if I can afford that going forward.
Well, some of them aren't. They don't work in the equivalent of brothels, which was the 2 that you guys found. 'cause
they're
you just-
still
you-
dragonborn. I'd imagine they still love gold.
They do, yeah. The whole thing is they're merchants. It's a merchants guild essentially, and they're all
Oh,
dragonborn,
we'll just have to
and they
collect you
collect
some really
things.
badass
You
stuff
met
to
one
give
at a
them.
bar. Remember that really god awful, terrifying looking silver dragonborn?
Yeah,
That was just running that like really nice bar. Yeah,
Right.
they literally said, yeah, he's part of that, and he's terrifying. Yeah.
do they collect white-haired twinks?
Well, the purple one did.
You mean all but one of our party?
Yeah. So
Which was so funny.
first of all, I am the only. Vori is the only twink present. Like,
Oh my god.
Ito could not be farther, but all of our characters in this
No.
campaign have white hair,
Which
just
is so
purely
funny.
purely
Yeah.
by coincidence.
So
Mhm.
funny.
It's hilarious.
Considering like a lot of the people in the campaign have like white or very light colored hair
Yeah.
or dark hair. You don't see a lot of like blue and green and red.
Mhm.
It's because look at my campaign setting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everyone is borderline celestial. If you don't know there is one character I know of who I cannot, it was something that one of you created, and I won't get into specifics, didn't choose celestial as a language that they knew, and I said, bitch, you about to be crippled as hell. Because there's so much celestial and infernal language going on in this. Like, you are crippled from
Was
this
that
point
the other
forward.
character in season 2?
Yeah, and
I remember they were so pissed off too because when they found out that my character did speak Celestial and one of the NPCs spoke Celestial, and I was like, "Oh, I
That was
actually
one of them.
understand what they're saying." And this person was like, "What do you mean?"
yeah, that was one of
Like,
them.
you're
There's
just along
actually,
for the
now that I think
ride.
about it, yeah, there's been several in like I think many seasons that I kind of drew people into and drew them out and everything, and you know, just like stuff that some of my other friends have made for down the line if they ever want to like pop in for a session and stuff, where I just was like, okay, if you don't want to know Celestial, then good luck trying to talk
It's
to
just,
anybody.
It's a prerequisite
It's
if
a
you have Sophia as a
prerequisite.
DM.
Yeah, honestly, it I
It's like
cannot
if you're
tell a
gonna be
lie.
bilingual in anything, you better pick Celestial over Elvish, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. The other dynamic of this character, and then I'll shut up about him.
Never. Never.
He's trying to figure out how the fuck parenting works.
That is true. He's working.
Vori is the de facto guardian of one Lufina.
Surrogate father.
Yeah. Who is the daughter of 2 late friends of his, who he's only recently found out may still be alive. How crazy! How silly of you!
What a world!
Originally, they were going to be dead, and I just couldn't do it.
Mhm.
I just couldn't.
It's more insane finding out that they're alive now. At least one of them, probably both. But until 8 months into this campaign, they were presumed dead, understandably, because they were, snatched up by demons. Most
What
people
up,
would be dead after that,
demons?
but
It's your
nobody
boy.
had heard from them in months. So, or I guess it's only been 2 months in the
It's been
campaign.
only a month.
Like
in
a
the
month and a
campaign.
half, yeah.
Month and a half.
It's been 1 month.
A month. All right. Holy shit.
You've had one full moon.
It's
Jesus
been
Christ.
3 weeks. It's been 2 weeks.
I've been keeping track. It's almost 5 weeks for you
It's
now.
been
Jesus
7
Christ.
days.
Okay. No. A lot for 7 days.
No.
Well, a month since the rift happened.
Yes. Yeah.
So
So-
technically, yeah, more like 6 or 7 weeks. But anyway, continue.
Month and a half for the
My
campaign because we had a
apologies.
couple weeks of tomfoolery
Mhm.
before the rifts opened. But
A couple weeks before then?
You had about a week and a half.
I think
Really?
so.
I thought it was like a few days.
No,
that we
because
played
we
before
went
that.
to we did get back the alcohol.
Uh-huh.
We did find lost kitty cat.
I thought that was all in like 2 days.
So what my timeline at least has been is
Yeah.
the little bit of time that it took all of you to meet in the Isle of Stars, followed by investigating the ghosts in the lighthouse and doing the beer run, as it is called, and then traveling back and then going back to your hometown, spending a couple days there. You had the wedding or the anniversary,
Yeah, 'cause
and then
we
you
went
had the
to
cat, and
Dwarf
then
Guy's party.
after that, like 2 days post anniversary fun times was when the star hit, and then the next morning was when the rift happened.
Mhm.
Yeah, rift.
So with travel and circumstance and everything else, in game time it was about a week and a half. Because I also know this because I was calculating the entire time how far the rift was spreading from the original continent
Right.
to Elapuris.
Because you also got to remember,
Because you remember
We
how the storms
spent-
were increasing. Yeah.
and we spent like 3 days traveling from Isle of Stars to Blushing Sands just to deliver a cake.
Yeah,
We
we,
went
did.
very
it was like-
slow.
it was like
That
2
was a
days.
long time,
it was like
wasn't
2 days.
Hmm.
That's little magical icebox.
Yeah. Well, as we've traversed this torn and battered earth, we've been carrying around this god blessed 3-year-old, 4-year-old,
4-year-old.
4-year-old.
Yeah.
And I mean that so literally. She's a tiny cleric.
True. Level 1, baby.
and- She is the type of kid that exists in real life. Everybody has a little cousin that just like asks way crazier questions than you expect and crazier questions than you remember asking as a kid. And
just a little too conscious.
yeah, yeah, just like seemingly fully aware of shit like, you know, death. This one in particular is, and it's crazy. But I had the most like defining moment of this dynamic between Vori and Lufina was one night in particular. It was the night after a campaign, and I was just like, after a session in this campaign, and I was just sitting on this because, like, I don't know, she had said something crazy at some point, and I called my mom to just talk about like how the campaign was going, and like, you know, give her a little update on this imaginary kid, and then we just bonded for like an hour over like how weird kids are and like how accurate that representation is. You know, Vori's conundrum is just this sudden guardianship after having never really thought about being a parent in any serious capacity, because it's like a little bit of a loner. Not that he couldn't get anybody,
And
but it was
also
like,
with Vori's backstory involving that.
yeah, having like a non-existent home life, a missing mom, and a
A dad who
absent
isn't
father
talked
in a
about.
different
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Mhm.
I haven't gone into much detail.
That's as much detail as they're gonna get. You know,
Yeah.
they're gonna watch this. You know, he's sitting right here and he's going, "What do you mean?
Ah.
What do you mean?"
Did you mention your father?
Oh,
You have a father? Yes? Okay.
she just sat on the phone with me and was like, yeah, that is kind of how it works. Which is so fun. It's fun, for one, to be able to talk with my parents like genuinely about the stuff that's going on in, you know, my D&D sessions. I love that. I appreciate my parents very much for that. And also that is a testament to just Sophia's writing and acting, because That's how you know it's a good character.
Thank you.
If you can, one, relate on it with an adult in your life who doesn't play the game, and two, have an existential crisis over it in real life.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I will show my hand here. Lufina came from just wanting to do something different.
Yeah.
You know, just something that was out of the box and different than just this party gets together and saves the world, you know. And I originally was going to make her 16 and angsty and like, my parents are dead. And then I was like, I made this campaign while I was on vacation. I literally created so much of it in a week. And that means that I was spending time around my nieces and my nephew. And I've watched these three grown up like so much, and they have defined so much happiness in my life. So, you know, when my youngest niece turns and looks at me and we're just sitting by the ocean and she says the most out of pocket shit I've ever heard, or when my oldest niece sits down next to me, looks at me seriously and she's like, so what do you think about death? Because, you know, XYZ thing just like happened a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, girl, I don't know. I don't even know these concepts, you know? So I kind of funneled the three of them, which when you think about it, it makes so much more sense. I funneled like so many of my experiences with the three of them. And I just said, okay, let me put them into the small, just cleric who is so full of hope. And then on top of that, I added the little caveat of, if the royal family goes, because she's the daughter of two heroes who just saved the continent prior to you guys, she's next.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about that? You know, because I remember the faces that you guys made when everything clicked and I finally got to say that out loud of like, she has choices, but all choices lead back to the crown.
Yeah.
And seeing you guys just like sit there, you were pale. Skyler was sitting there going, of course she's done this to us. Aaron and Bailey, I've never seen look more upset in my entire life. Sitting at my table, they were like, are you joking me? And ever since then, it's been so funny because you've had these little tidbits of people, especially because I've thrown them at Vori, because I've thrown them at you specifically because I know how much you love this character and this dynamic. These little tidbits, these little sprinkles of like, oh, but Lufina and the crown. And you just go, no. No, it's her choice. No. Yeah.
Everybody shut up. Stop talking to my daughter.
Stop talking to my daughter. Yeah.
Well, the most surprising thing in the last session was talking to her aunt Vered, who that's where we've been taking Lufina this entire time. Like one of our main goals in this campaign has been get Lufina to safety, to her next of kin. And it was shocking a little bit to hear Vered say she can stay with me, but after all this is done, like she's going back with you. And like, you know, I fully expected Vered to be like, well, you know, she's the hope of Elapirs and all that. But like
the darling star.
Thanks for bringing her here safe,
bring
kid.
it up. Just actually wants the best for her niece and recognizes her wants immediately, despite not having like interacted with her in her now, you know, conscious state. So that's why this character is so human. And I love it.
I love Vori so much because Vori is a chaotic little shithead who I never know what you're going to do next. And that's why I invited you to my table, because I was, well, for one, you know, we'd been friends for so long. I was running campaigns and because of circumstance, you couldn't be there. And so I mean,
just not living close.
Yeah, just not living close. And so whenever I created this, I was like, I got to get him here because I want to be tested. And also I just know like, I wanted to create the human experience and I found it in Vori. And then I gave you glittery skin and like bleached white hair.
He's so pretty.
He's so pretty. We find Pinterest photos that like kind of look at him always like, oh my God, he's everything to me, my little child. Yeah. But I'm very excited because I have so much stuff planned for you.
Yeah.
I have so many things planned for you and I'm so thrilled.
I feel bad sometimes like saying and acknowledging that this is like my favorite character that I've ever played, because like in more recent years I've had the honor of playing some really, really damn good ones. But this just like took my role play experience like so far beyond any table that I've interacted with before. And I am really thankful for that. And I'm glad that I created the elements of this character that I did and stumbled on the ones that I didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially because, fun fact, this campaign was a throwaway campaign. I said, we'll meet every couple months and play this. It doesn't need to be that important. And I mean, I love every single campaign I'm in. I look forward to every single other campaign that I am in. I love spending time with my friends. I love creating stories. It's like how I grew up. That's what defined me and made me feel safe. And it still just blows my mind how many times I'm like, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to make space for, everybody else. And then I get texts from all of you collectively just going, Sophia, how much more of that Google Doc do you have for this? How far can we go with this? So it's just so funny how we all convinced ourselves at the beginning when we were creating. It was like, we're going to meet every once in a while. It's not that big of a deal. And now it's this, and we're a year in and it's only been like a month in the campaign. Yeah, that's crazy to me. Yeah, and then you have to sit and put up with me with my phone this close to my face in bed typing notes that you can't see.
I appreciate you so much as I don't know how you do it. And I never have. Like, it's shocking how much volume goes from your brain to page just all the time.
Thank you.
Like I just, all the rest of us spend a lot of time just overthinking really our settings and our notes and stuff. But it seems to come like so unbelievably quickly for you. And then like we get to the end of some sessions and sometimes you're like, you guys didn't get through half of what I had planned. And then sometimes we do. And you're like, it's gonna be a bit like I'm gonna need to think, and then like every time this has happened, a week later, you're like, guys, I have so much. You people are fucked.
Is this why like with the Fallout stuff that I'm creating, none of you believe me that it's gonna take until next year?
Yes. Because you'll be like, oh my God, guys, we literally, you went up to the last word on my Google Doc. This is, I'm going to need so much time. We'll recharge for a bit. We can play other people's campaigns. Like, don't worry about me. And then like 3 days later, you're sitting in bed going, I wrote a little more.
Asterius 50 pages now.
That's crazy, dude. That's so much.
I'm gonna reveal something because this is my I think it's my biggest strength and my biggest weakness is the fact that my brain just like floats off and into the void, and then I have to like just sit there and just let things ruminate, and I feel crazy. It's probably maladaptive daydreaming, and I really should look into that. And my degree screams at me and goes, Sophia, you know the puzzle pieces and what this leads to, and your weird trauma. Why do you not just go to a therapist? And I said, well, my therapist encouraged me. So we'll get there later.
I mean, is this not itself like a coping mechanism with it?
It really is, because I mean, I will make this as simple as possible. You have to understand that like stories defined me. My home life was filled with a lot of stuff that, still, I have a great family, by the way. So whoever's watching this, me, everything's fine, but you know what's up. My mom being sick and, just all the stuff that happened with that. And I spent a lot of time at home by myself. All I had were these people on the other side of a computer screen. And all I wanted to do, my dad says I get this from my mom, because you should have seen the stuff that my mom was going to write before she passed away. But like all of it just channeled into, I just couldn't stop writing. I created 3 books.
God.
by the time I was 14.
Yeah.
And they were stupid. Okay. Those books still sit in my room. You're never going to find them.
Yeah.
You're never going to find them, but I know where they are. Okay. And I mean, Victoria and my other friends had to put up with me. Just like I would be in class and I couldn't focus because all I was doing was writing this stuff. And it is a way for me. It is my love language is really what it is. To me, it's an act of service that I'm willing to include you in something that's so near and dear to me. And I'm making it yours. Like this isn't just my thing anymore. It's not, it was always meant to be. It was me and my friend's thing. It was me and your guys' thing. And now it's me and this table's thing. And my problem is everything is up here. I have so many moments and so many things just sitting up in my brain that I constantly think about. Things that are going to happen 2 years from now in this campaign that are going to be, in my opinion, even more of a peak than when I was sitting there shaking, going through this epic monologue of the world being torn apart, which sucked. I redid that map and I painted it and I colored it in and I was going to put those marks all over it on the get-go and I couldn't do it. So I used that stupid little
Wax
tracing paper. And
That was a good idea.
It was a good idea.
I think that is
also
how you should have done it.
Yeah, because then I was like, oh, because then we can take it off later and kind of save it, you know, and then that way you can kind of see like where everything is. Because oh my God. But like, I cannot help myself. It's like this itch, this like bug that's in me where I just like word vomit and everything that comes out on the page. I sit there and I look at it, I go, okay, we need to put pieces where they go. And I mean, like I'm sitting here looking at this major notes and document that I have of just all these people and things that I've done. And the fact that I'm able to connect all of this, I don't know how I do it. I don't, but I do. And I think a lot of it is just also technical work. If I had to walk into next session, the stronghold that you guys are about to be in, I am so fully confident in the fact that I could get you from beginning to end I could do this. I could, because that's how long I sit and I think about it. But I don't, and see, this is where I kind of close off is I don't like talking about that because I never want anybody else to feel like I'm some sort of great, powerful person because this is a thing I can do. It's just my type of thinking has always been up in my head. And when you're looking at the world from such an artistic and like, I would say I view the world in a celestial lens. I really do. It's an ethereal landscape. Everything that's in my head that I'm channeling into this is the same thing, if that makes sense. You know?
Yeah, and you also have really, really good retention as far as like just being able to hear something, see something, say something, and you remember it really, really well. Like, at least a lot better than most of the people in our friend group. Not to say we are all super forgetful, but you just have like this knack for being able to, especially with something creative like this, you have this knack for being able to just, in conversation, someone will be like, oh my gosh, yeah, what about that one town that you were thinking maybe we would have gone to at one point? And you're like, yep, I know the mayor, I know this, I know that, I know that. I sat and I did it. Like, that's what doesn't connect for me.
Yeah.
That's why, like, when you talk about all these things, I'm like, God, I'm so fucking jealous. It's not because I'm like, oh my God, you're a better DM than me. It's because I'm like, I wish I could just remember my own thoughts about my own campaign.
Yeah. I think this is something that I've always envied. I've been sitting here like psychoanalyzing myself a little bit. But I was a Tumblr kid for a bit in high school.
The groan that erupted from you. It was a Tumblr kid.
I had a friend at the time that like introduced me to it, but what got me into it really was seeing the thought process in real time of people who wrote fan fiction, and like really, really huge works of personal fiction. Like I will vomit at this. Homestuck. I like read in earnest for a good while, and stuff like that. And you know, fan fictions blew my mind because people go on forever. And those stories go on forever. And I was like so jealous all the time. Cause I knew I had that in me, but like not in quite the same way. And it's taken me until well into adulthood. I say that like I'm an old man. I'm not. It's taken me until several years into adulthood to like figure out that the best way for me to get that rolling is to bounce shit off other people, which is hard to do when the people that you can do that best with are in the campaigns that you want to create.
Literally, it's such a freaking struggle because
Yeah.
I learned the exact same thing about myself. I can sit and I can write ideas and I
Yeah.
will stare at them and I'll go, that sucks. I hate this. And I'll spend 5 minutes talking with someone else.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I just came up with another arc, like an entire story arc
Yeah.
in like 5 minutes of like, oh my God, this is perfect.
Yeah.
But I can't do that
Uh-huh.
with your motherfuckers because I'd spoil the story that you're going to be in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that pulling back my veil a little bit? That's part of why I've been making such an effort to introduce my siblings to
Mhm.
the game and to the concept of roleplay, because I knew like they would get it, and I've been kind of like grooming them to be people that I could bounce this shit off of.
Forming your own Jedi council.
I am, yeah. I'm building a board of directors here.
You're going to let me know when they're ready because I'm going to hit Matt up. I'm going to be like, all right, I need you.
I know we've gone on for so long, and I went on for so long about Vori, but
Well, I was gonna say it could be just a two-parter.
Could be a two-part.
I want to be a two-parter. This is going to be a two-parter.
Yeah, we'll come back for Ito.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I
He
think we
joined
should
later
do,
anyway.
We should do Ito, and if you want to touch on any NPCs, I don't want to make this all about me. You know?
No, we totally should
But,
talk about
you know-
I think it
NPCs.
would be fun. I don't know if we'd be able to do like full profiles
Oh
of all
no,
of them,
no,
but
no,
like
no.
talk about
you
like
could just
the
ask
games in
leading
general,
questions.
Yeah.
You know.
And like I honestly, like I could let me talk about this campaign forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We've got
Oh,
time.
yeah.
We've got time.
It's not like the podcast is going anywhere.
Right.
We still got to get
I'm just giving
Aaron
you
and Justin
loads of content.
We appreciate it.
on. Heck yeah.
We're gonna get to much more of this in the next episode, though, because holy God, there is so much more to go over than we fucking thought.
Mhm.
So, with that said, I want to hear about your writing and your time on Tumblr.com.
And what's your favorite just girly things photo? And did you also start watching Drag Race at season 6 because of all the glittery gifts on Tumblr?
The one thing I don't want to receive in our inboxes, summongreaterpod@gmail.com and at summongreater on Twitter, is Super
Like and
Who Lock
subscribe.
fanfic.
Oh, yeah, no, I could never do that. I wouldn't know.
Hi, I didn't do a Tumblr.
That's okay.
He was sheltered.
He's
and
pure.
I love him for it. Mwah. He didn't get traumatized through Tumblr.
I'm like the pet homeschooler.
It's so true. It's so true. And then meanwhile, me and Sam are just like, remember when we were pure? When we
No.
weren't jaded and filled with misery.
I'm less so now, I think.
Oh.
We've been
That's
trying
Than
to
I was,
undo all
anyway.
that.
that's so true. Actually, now that you say that, I'm like, I made this campaign because I'm in a happier place.
That's actually real. Yeah. But also your homebrew and all the
Yes.
stuff we regularly ask you for. I want your wildest homebrew and the reason that you created it in our inbox. I also want to hear if you've had any situations like what we talked about with Vori, situations where you kind of made the character and then the DM made the rest of your character.
Honestly, just experiences in general with the homies too. How has your friend group gotten into D&D? Have you grabbed any of your friends by the wrists and ankles, dragged them into a dark room near the bathrooms, and told them you're going to roll a character? We want to hear about that.
We do. I want you to tell me your favorite constellation, and I want you to like and comment and subscribe and turn on your notifications and share this with your friends and go to our TikTok.
You're so much kinder to us than we are to ourselves.
Yes, please. Not my wife being better for the algorithm than anything.
I want to be better. Take my shiny face and use it all you
Jesus
want.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you again next week.